Ramble.
This episode is presented by DoorDash. Use promo code ANYTHINGGOES when you download the DoorDash app for 50% off up to a $20 value and zero delivery fees. Hello. If you are a frequent listener of Anything Goes, you know that I love talking about life philosophy, society as a whole, etc. I like sharing my opinions on those things. I like discussing those things just broadly and openly. And let me tell you, I don't know everything. Okay? I don't know everything. That's number one. Number two, I'm a child. I'm actually not at all a child. I'm 21. Okay? So, woman over here, but I'm still very young and I'm still learning a lot. And so naturally, I'm not always going to get it right. Sometimes I will get it right. Okay. Every once in a while, let's give me some credit, but I'm not always going to get it right. And so I had this idea. In today's episode, I'm going to address some of the times that people disagreed with me heavily. People thought, Emma, you did not get this one right. With your opinion, with your take on a certain topic. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about whether I still stand by what I said or if maybe my opinion has changed, etc. And the reason why I wanted to do this was because I feel like a lot of people are really afraid of doing this. Not only on the internet, whatever, but even in their lives on a personal level. I think a lot of people are afraid of the natural and healthy evolution of the human mind over the course of your life, where your ideas and your moral compass and all of this change over time. And sometimes that can be humbling because you have to admit that at one point you were wrong, or maybe you didn't know enough about a certain topic, or I don't know, like you have to admit fault. And sometimes that hurts more than other times. Sometimes you're like, I can't handle this. I don't want to admit that I was wrong. My ego can't take it. I don't want to do it. And it can be uncomfortable to sort of address yourself and say, hey, that opinion needs some work, or that opinion could grow a little bit, I think people are especially afraid of doing that on the internet, but I think that we all struggle with that. So today I have 3 topics that I've discussed in the past, and I'm going to discuss whether or not my perspective has changed and what my perspective is now. So let's dive right in. Let's start with my episode on the truth about being self-employed. I'm starting out with the big one, because why not? Most people would be like, I'm saving the biggest one for last. Not me. I'm generous and I'm giving you the big heavy one first. So I made an episode about the truth about being self-employed, where I basically argued that being self-employed isn't all that it's cracked up to be. My reasoning for that was that because you're your own boss in a way, you're kind of forced to work 24/7. Like it's very hard to just tune out and remove yourself from the world of your work, right? I also argued that you're much more emotionally involved in your work when you're self-employed, which can be kind of miserable because, again, you can't ever fully be off work. You're always in it. Whereas when you're working a 9-to-5, you maybe clock out and you're done and you don't have to think about it again because you're not as emotionally involved in the business, right? And then I also discussed that when you're self-employed and you're famous, because sometimes a lot of times when you have a successful business that you started, you're going to have some notoriety for that, some fame for that. And that fame can be miserable. Actually, I would argue is always miserable pretty much. No, not always, but like there are some really challenging things about being famous that can make your life significantly more difficult. Although it's kind of ironic because it also comes with fortune in a way, but it also comes with, some really challenging things as well. But I basically touched on how fame, when self-employed, adds the challenge of being scrutinized publicly all the time, which is a very imprisoning feeling for everyone. Almost, I don't think anybody can become famous and not deal with that challenge. I was basically shedding light on all of the reasons why being self-employed is not the dream come true that everybody presents it to be. And I was saying that I feel in our society, there's this pressure to strive to be self-employed, that's the epitome of success. And that I think we should take that pressure off because maybe a 9-to-5 isn't so bad. Now, people were unhappy with this, and I completely understand why, for the record. I get it. A lot of people were saying, you have no place to talk because you've been self-employed for God knows how long. That's all you've pretty much ever known. So fuck you. Number one, fair. People also said that being self-employed will always be better than having a 9-to-5, no matter what the scenario is. Working a 9-to-5 is brutal and depressing, and basically in any situation, being self-employed will always be better. And then I need to shut the fuck up because I don't know what I'm talking about. So now I answer the question, has my perspective changed? Yes, absolutely. I think the thing that really hit home for me was a lot of people saying that no matter how bad and challenging being self-employed can be, there's a really good chance that having a 9-to-5 is worse. And I guess that sort of showed me in a way. I was like, well, I guess working in life in general is always, going to be challenging. Like, it's just, there's no perfect formula. There really isn't. There's no perfect formula. If you're self-employed, there are going to be intense challenges that come with that. If you have a 9-to-5, there are going to be intense challenges that come with that. If you were born with money and your family has a lot of money and you don't have to work a day in your life, there are intense challenges with that. And I think that I may have romanticized a 9-to-5 a little bit too much, because I remember saying, and mind you, I didn't listen to my episode again because I was like, ooh, I don't want to listen to my voice for an hour. Like I really don't like listening to myself talk. But anyway, I think I was sort of romanticizing having a 9-to-5, and I was heavily focusing on the fact that you have this structure where you show up and you sort of work within a machine that you have no emotional connection to. And then at the end of the day, you leave and you don't have to think about it at all, right? And that was sort of the thing I was focused on, was like, how beautiful is it that you can just show up, get it done, and then leave? But I think that the cons are a little bit more powerful than the pros in this situation, because the main con of working a 9-to-5 is the lack of control that you have. You don't have control over how much money you make. You don't have control over if you get a raise. You don't have control over how the business runs. You don't have control over anything. And although that may not always be a terrible thing, there might be times when it totally works out. It shouldn't be ignored that's a really challenging thing. So I think the way that my perspective really shifted was realizing that although my points may still be true about being self-employed being challenging at times, that's a nightmare that you inflict upon yourself. When you're self-employed, you are your own boss. So your job being a nightmare is your fucking fault. You have the power when you're self-employed to mold your career and your life into pretty much whatever you want it to be, because you are the boss. And so if shit's not going right, if you don't like your hours that you're giving yourself, if you don't like how hard you're working, if you don't like the people that you're working with, in theory, when you're self-employed, you can mold that situation. Whereas when you have a 9-to-5, you can't. And I think I sort of glossed over that in a way that maybe I think I just didn't look at that side of it. And so I sort of realized that. I will say, though, that I agree with a few of the things that I said. I still stand by those things. One of them being that society's pushing really hard on the peak of success being self-employed, and that maybe not necessarily being necessary, right? I do agree with that, because I think that everybody's peak of success looks different. And for some people, that might be working a 9-to-5 at a job that they really like, for a company that they really believe in, and they want to support something that already exists, right? That isn't theirs, but they want to be a part of it. That might be somebody's dream. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody maybe feels the desire to go and be self-employed and start their own business and, do their own thing. Not everybody necessarily wants to do that. And they can be very successful without doing that. And that's okay. Like that's, you know what I mean? I think the sort of ideal career picture that has been painted is unnecessary, because again, we're all on our own journey, and what success is going to look like for one person versus the next is just going to look so different. I just don't think that there's a reason to sort of look at one path as the right path, because it just puts everyone in a box. And I don't know. I just don't think that that's necessary. And I also still agree with the fact that like being self-employed isn't a perfect situation. Have I realized that it's something that is in your control as a self-employed person? Yes, I've realized that a lot more. And that's sort of a luxury that you get when you're self-employed. Are you going to give yourself that luxury? Who knows? But yeah, I think overall, for sure, my perspective has changed on that. And that's exciting to me, because with this topic and the next two that we're going to talk about, I'm so grateful for the learning, you know what I mean? That's come from making podcast episodes about my opinions, people telling me what they think, and then me getting to hear a new perspective. You know what I'm saying? I fucking love that. And I think that's incredible. And so yeah. Okay, anyway, moving on to my next controversial opinion. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. As we get deeper into fall and the colder weather, you might deal with some tougher times. The colder weather and the changing of the seasons tends to be challenging for me. And if you find yourself in the same boat, I get it. Instead of letting these challenges pile up, you can learn to become a better problem solver, and it really makes a difference. Therapy can help you become a better problem solver, and if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great place to start. What an individual can gain from therapy is very specific to that individual. Some people find therapy helps with emotional healing. Some find that it helps them with their anxiety and their depression. No matter what your struggle is, talking to a professional can be very, very valuable with learning how to cope with your struggles. BetterHelp is convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists at any time. BetterHelp wants to make sure that you find a therapist that you connect with so that you can truly benefit from what therapy has to offer. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/anything today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/anything. I love DoorDash. I might even love it too much. Like, I am passionate about DoorDash. I love it. Halloween's coming up, and I can guarantee you that I will be using DoorDash on Halloween for some reason, whether it's ordering snacks for a Halloween party or it's ordering Band-Aids because the shoes that I decided to wear gave me blisters. There's a really good chance I'm going to be using DoorDash. The thrill of finding the perfect costume, the anticipation of trick-or-treating, the excitement of having the spookiest decorations in the neighborhood. Halloween is almost here. You can get all of your Halloween sweets, treats, and supplies all in one place, delivered directly to your door with DoorDash. With DoorDash, you're not just getting the things you love, but supporting the community that you love too. From the stores and restaurants to the Dashers driving around, each purchase provides a new opportunity for everyone involved because with DoorDash, there is a neighborhood of good in every order. For a limited time, you guys can get 50% off up to a $20 value and 0 delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app and enter code ANYTHINGGOES. That's 50% off up to a $20 value and 0 delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code ANYTHINGGOES. Don't forget, that's Anything Goes for 50% off up to a $20 value and 0 delivery fees with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply. So I made an episode about female friendships, and in the episode, I focused very heavily on the challenging elements that I've experienced within female friendships. Okay, we're talking about competitiveness, backstabbing, toxicity, etc., etc. We're talking about all the bad parts of friendships between women. I said that, female friendships are particularly difficult. There are very few genuine ones. There are definitely genuine ones, but it's more rare, I would say, in my experience, than difficult ones, right? And I also talked about how I myself have learned to be the best friend I can possibly be by sort of working on myself and working on my insecurities and my sort of feelings of competitiveness in order to truly be a good supportive friend to those around me. Okay, so after I posted this episode, people said, Emma, what the fuck kind of friendships do you have? Because I've never experienced this. That was one thing that people said. Another thing people said was, Emma, what the fuck? This is kind of adding to the narrative, the false narrative that women are constantly competing against each other. And this narrative drives women apart even more. So now we ask the question, has my perspective changed? I would say yes, actually, on this one as well. Again, same as the last topic, there are still some things that I agree with that have not changed. I still do think that there are some really distinct challenges within female friendships that people experience all the time. I still do think that there is an element of competitiveness sometimes, and there is still weird toxicity and backstab. Like, does that stuff exist? Absolutely. But I think that in the episode, I was kind of like saying that's majority of what exists. That's pretty much like in almost all female friendships, that's what's going to happen. I think that was sort of my vibe. Again, didn't listen to the episode again because I literally cannot handle listening to my voice for that long. I used to be able to do it, and then now I can't. So sorry, I didn't listen to the episode again. I think that there is truth to everything that I said, but I think there was a lack of discussion around female friendships that just don't have that toxic, competitive, weird element, because friendships like that do exist. And I remember when I posted this episode and some people were like, you're talking like there's no such thing as a healthy female friendship. Like you're talking like it doesn't exist. I realized, wow, I've been sort of focusing on the negative memories I have in female friendships. And I've completely ignored all of the positive experiences that I have had, because I have had positive experiences. I would say it's split 30-70, like 30% really positive, really genuine, really real, non-toxic, gorgeous friendships. 70% have been iffy. And honestly, if you think about it, 30% is pretty good. Like meeting, that many, like that's pretty good. My perspective now is that positive female friendships, number one, do exist, and they're more prevalent than I thought before, because I think I had sort of a pessimistic sort of perspective just because I was frustrated. I mean, honestly, because I was frustrated, because it's tough. Like it's tough because I guess the way that my perspective changed was that I really do think that toxic, competitive, weird, not genuine female friendships are not the norm. They should not be the norm. And in my life, I felt like they kind of were the norm just because of my experience, the way that my cards were dealt, you know what I mean? But now I realize, no, actually, this was just my experience, number one. But number two, it's something I allowed in my life. I could have sort of cut these friendships out of my life sooner and searched for those genuine people, those genuine women, and found them instead of tolerating shitty friendships. And that was sort of my responsibility, because I think my belief before was that finding those people is like near impossible sometimes, depending on who's around you. But I think it's just a matter of looking a little bit harder and not tolerating the shitty friendship. Because I think in the episode, I was sort of talking about how you can sort of learn to tolerate and maybe even improve these shitty friendships. But I'm now realizing, no, that's not necessarily the norm that we need to accept and just deal with and sort of try to do our best to make better. Instead, we can just go search elsewhere, because there is a such thing as an automatically genuine, incredible female friendship. They're out there, and it may not be as rare as I once thought. We just need to look around and find friends that work for us. End of story. And if there's a competitive, weird vibe, that's just not the right friend for you across the board in life. Okay, last but not least, we have my culture shift series. So I made 3 episodes about a culture shift coming that I felt happening. And I specifically got some pushback on one of the episodes. And it was the episode about influencers. Okay. Now this is crazy because some might consider me an influencer. Okay. So it's like, whoa, Black Mirror episode. She's kind of talking about herself in third person. That's weird, Anywho, so here's what I said. I basically was talking about how there are so many influencers at this point. There are so many people with an Instagram following, a TikTok following, all of this, a YouTube following, whatever it may be, that it's becoming so saturated that it's almost like being an influencer doesn't even mean anything anymore, because there are so many that internet fame is just diluted now, maybe. And I think we're heading to a point where it's not going to mean anything anymore, because so many people have found internet fame. And it's so popular now in a way. Like it's just getting to a point where almost everybody knows someone who has 1 million followers on some platform. Like it might be your cousin's best friend. It might be your best friend. It might be you. Like, you know, there's so many people who are becoming famous on social media. What does that mean? I also was talking about how with so many people sharing their lives on social media, like an influencer, if you will, and with so many people kind of doing the same things, showing their daily life, whether that's their morning routine or their vlog or like whatever it may be, how much longer can we keep making that same type of content, if you will, before it all becomes stale because it's all been done before? Because the volume in which it's coming out and the speed in which it's coming out is causing things to become stale so much sooner that I just wonder at what point we're going to hit a wall and it's going to be like, well, everything's already been done before. There's nothing left to do. And that was sort of my argument. Now, I left it very open-ended. I was like, listen, this is just kind of what I'm feeling it might happen, but I also don't fucking know anything because again, I don't know, you know, but I sort of have been having existential crises about that because I just don't know how much more it can evolve. Like how can it evolve? It has to hit a wall at some point. There's only so much we can do as human beings before we're going to run out of shit to film and take photos of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so that was sort of my perspective that I shared in that episode. And interestingly enough, a lot of people who are not influencers, don't participate in that world of things, seem to sort of agree with what I was saying. And they were like, honestly, yeah, I kind of see what you mean. But a lot of people who are influencers were like, no, that's not true. You're a hypocrite. Me. You're a hypocrite because number one, you're literally a fucking influencer right now. Number two, don't shit on other people's livelihoods because obviously a lot of people are influencers as their job, right? Don't shit on other people's livelihoods after you already did that. Like you already were an influencer and you made a career out of it. Like don't shit on other people trying to go do that. I completely understand that perspective, but I will say my perspective has not changed. I will clarify, I'm not shitting on anyone trying to be an influencer or succeeding as an influencer. Absolutely not. Why would I ever do that? No, that is not the point. The point is, I mean, truly, I'm just wondering how it's possible for it to continue. Moral of the story is my perspective has not changed. And I'm even confused, you know, because I have been posting shit on the internet, whether that's YouTube or Instagram or whatever, for years. And even I kind of feel myself confused at times, like, God, what do I post anymore? I think one of the key pieces of being an influencer is sort of sharing your everyday life, you know, sharing what you're doing, sharing what you like, sharing what you hate, sharing everything all the time on social media. That's sort of the definition of being an influencer, if you ask me, right? Being in the business of sharing your entire life for people who may want to emulate what you're doing or pick up little pieces of your life and integrate it into their life. That's sort of what an influencer is. It's somebody who lives a life that's interesting and shares it so that other people can sort of pick up those traits, right? That's really the science of what an influencer is. And I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a chance that, you know, as new people come along and share their own unique life, that maybe that's the way that the influencing world evolves, is that as more people come on the scene and start sharing their life and they have a new, unique, fresh, way of living their life. They have a new, fresh perspective. That's what will keep it alive, is the fact that once one person runs out of shit to talk about, whatever, because they've already given all they have of themselves, then that's when a new person comes along. And that's sort of the healthy trajectory of the industry. Maybe that's what it is. And maybe it will last forever. And even though it's becoming really saturated, the truth is that no two people are the same. And that's kind of what can maybe set everyone apart, is that unless somebody's copying someone else, when they share what they do every day, what they like, what they wear, what they're eating, whatever it may be, it's going to be different than the next person, unless they're copying somebody. But if they're just doing their own thing, yeah, it's going to be unique. It's going to be different. Until they run out of shit to talk about in regards to themselves, that will continue. And then when they're done, the next person comes along, But then again, but there's just so many people. But then I guess because everybody's different, maybe it will never be stale. I don't know. Because now I'm sort of, maybe my perspective has changed. I don't know. I don't know. Well, let's focus on the influencers and influencing of today, because obviously the next generation of influencers and people who want to follow influencers, that's a whole other story. Okay. And also, I'm going to be like a parent at that point, maybe by the time the next round of sort of influencers and whatever come in and completely replace what is now the scene of it all, But let's just talk about right now. Is influencing for our generation on the downturn? Things are kind of getting stale. We've kind of seen it all. Is that what's going on here, or what? On one hand, no, that might not be the case. Influencers might continue to evolve and change their lives and their content, and it might remain interesting forever. And maybe who you as an individual decide to follow might shift over time, but influencers themselves will continue to do their thing and find an audience that matches them at that given time until they decide to quit. Maybe that's one way it goes. On the other hand, this whole thing could become so stale to this generation that it just sort of eventually dissipates. And because so many people are doing it, it sort of becomes something that everyone does. Almost everyone's an influencer in their own way. Maybe some are more followed than others, but it sort of loses its allure in a way because it gets to a point where it's so diluted that everyone's doing it. And it's not a scenario where, maybe influencers are like movie stars in a way, because everybody becomes sort of an influencer. Now listen, I don't know. This is just me playing around with what could happen. And again, I don't fucking know. What do I know? We'll see. We'll see on that one. I don't know. I don't know. But to finish off this episode, I wanted to talk about not only the importance of being wrong, but also the incredible things that can come from putting yourself in situations where you might be wrong. It is frightening to share your opinions, share your perspectives, share your ideas, because there is a chance that you might be wrong. There is a chance that your ego might get slammed because you just didn't get it right that time. You might end up making a fool of yourself a little bit. All of these things. But it is such an important part of being a human, because without sharing your thoughts, ideas, and opinions, you can't have meaningful conversations that help you to further develop those thoughts, ideas, and opinions. Listen, only so much can be done by looking up information on the internet. There's something unparalleled about, is that the right word to use? Fuck. Why do I use big words and then I'm like, did that work there? I do this every day and all the time. I use a word and I'm like, I swear this works here, but does it? And then I have to check and it's a whole thing. Oh my God, I used the word correctly. Sometimes I do shock myself. Sometimes I do impress myself. I'm like, wow, anyway, there's something unparalleled about having a conversation with somebody that you know about your thoughts and your opinions, because the ability to bounce back and forth and the ability to connect on a real personal level, just using context from what you know about each other's lives or whatever, there's something about that just helps you grow so much. And in my personal life, I'm always sharing my thoughts and opinions. I'm like, I swear to God, people in my life probably are so annoyed with me because I take every opportunity I can to throw an idea at someone and see if it sticks and see what they think. Because I'm constantly trying to sort of build my own sort of library in my mind of what I think. And I wasn't always like this because there were certain times in my life where I did not want to do that. I was like, ugh, no, I'm too scared. I don't want anyone to think I'm stupid. I don't want to come off as stupid. I don't know if I know enough about what I'm talking about to just talk about it, etc. But what I've learned is that it's so valuable on so many levels. And whether you're doing it on the internet to a bunch of different people, like I'm doing right now, or you're doing it with people in your personal life, there's so much to be gained from it. And I think we shouldn't be fearful of it. But we should also be graceful towards others. It takes a level of vulnerability to sort of share a perspective or an opinion. And I think it's very easy, especially through the internet, but even in person, to maybe disagree with someone's opinion, right? And immediately be like, you fucking, fuck you, kind of have a jolty sort of reaction and be like, fuck you, no. What the hell? Just get angry, right? And emotional and whatever. That can sometimes be an impulse, especially on the internet, but in person as well. And I think learning how to have a conversation with someone about your thoughts and opinions on things and their thoughts and opinions on things, and the ability to learn how to have a constructive conversation where, both of you can learn something, but also your voice was never raised. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to be mean. You don't need to be an asshole in order to, disagree with somebody and share your perspective. That's not necessary, because I think that it kind of discourages the excitement around these conversations when they're sort of negative and not received in a rational manner, And so I think that the courage to share what you think and the self-control and patience to hear everyone else's opinion is a really, really incredible skill to have, number one, but also mind expanding skill to have. And I don't know, I encourage everybody to let their minds be free and let your opinions and perspectives evolve with you throughout your life, because that's a sign of growing. That's a sign of becoming a better you and becoming a wiser you. And that's going to be awesome when maybe somebody needs your help and you can offer them a sort of sense of wisdom on something because you have fully fleshed out that idea in your mind and in your life as well. Anyway, I'm going on a okay, I need to stop, you guys. No, I need to stop. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'm done. Okay, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, as we know by now, always feel free to share your opinions with me. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I don't think I could nail it into your head more that I appreciate and cherish that type of conversation as long as it's respectful. And listen, not everybody's going to be respectful. And a lot of the comments that I'm referring to today were not respectful. A lot of them were mean, and that's okay because I also understand that that's fine. But I do appreciate like constructive, yeah. But I also enjoy like agreeing as well and like being able to bond over that. Like both are incredible. So always know my DMs, Instagram comments, Instagram DMs, Twitter DMs, whatever, always open. Share your thoughts with me, share your perspectives. It's a magical thing that we can do. Share your thoughts and opinions with each other in the comments, whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? Healthy, positive growth conversations should be happening as much as possible. And I'm here for it. The Instagram is at Anything Goes. The Twitter is at AG Podcast. You can follow Anything Goes on any platform you stream podcasts as well if you enjoy the show. My coffee company, chamberlaincoffee.com. Incredible coffee, incredible matcha, incredible coffee-related accessories. Drinking a matcha right now out of my Chamberlain Coffee tumbler cup. I mean, I live the life. I live the Chamberlain Coffee lifestyle. I mean, as I should, but you know, I'm there. Also, you can use code AG15 if you want a little discount. Special discount for listeners of the podcast. And I think that's all I got. Thank you guys for listening. I really, truly appreciate all of you so much. And I love talking to you every week. It's the fucking best. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Love you. Is it weird? Okay, wait. Is it weird? Hold on. Before I end this episode, I can't decide if it is weird for me to say I love you to you because it's like really, is it weird because we don't really know each other? Like, is it sort of teetering the line of like a parasocial relationship, which is like the relationship between me in this scenario as the sort of person that's being listened to and you as the listener? Like, is it getting a little too dystopian for me to be saying I love you to you? Because even though I don't know you, I kind of feel like I do but I also just genuinely don't. And also vice versa. You kind of know me, but you don't really, but you do enough, but you don't all the way. Like, so is it weird? And I've kind of wondered that for like the past 6 months. I've been really asking myself, is it weird to say I love you to people who follow you on the internet? Like, is that weird? I don't think it is because I do truly feel genuine love for you, even though I've never met you. But also, is it weird? Let me know. That's an opinion you can share with me. Okay, bye.